作为一个新人，我觉得我的运气还是比较好的，因为刚来 LPL 前半年就打进季后赛，名次还不错，打好每一场吧，就不给自己留遗憾就行。
Going to be seeing no regrets from 369 with a blazing fast 25-minute victory in game number 1 there for TOP, Raz. Good lord.
He's talking like an old man. What the heck? It's like, I don't want to see any regrets. I'm too old for the game. The guy literally his rookie split. Come on.
I'm a massive 17 years old. I don't have much time left on this earth.
All right, well, he's playing well. I think that's what it comes down to. I love to see games like those kind of happen because for players as confident as they are, they seem very mature as well. And just being able to see the interviews and just like discussion amongst SinoDragons, I know they lost the game, but it's more important now more than ever, especially after the loss that they had in that game, to be able to return strong in game 2 so they don't end up getting slammed like EDG did. Now, that's important. That's what they need to learn. Go for it.
And we've got our MVP, of course. It's going to be Ben for TOP. It's rare we get to see a support MVP, Raz.
So if you were asking me who got MVP on that one, I would say Knight, unsurprisingly. A lot of that comes down to how methodical it was, being able to move from side to side of the map in a matchup where it seemed like he was just going to get bogged down. So that being said, all that aside, take a look at the number of MVPs Ben has gotten throughout the split. Not a lot. Not a lot, especially if you're on a team with 369, XX, Knight, a LoKeN as well. You're not going to get a lot of love, so I don't mind if it comes down to the vision score that you got to see. A lot of the wards early on in the game for a composition really based around being able to get down poke off vision. So at least he did his job. It's never in question. I just like the lights. You know, I like the lights, the spotlight, and the sport doesn't usually get that.
Hey man, Knight's already got the most MVPs in the regular split. He's sitting on 12, so I feel like you said, we can shine the spotlight somewhere else for once. Give it to someone else. But I have a question for you, Raz.
Give it to me.
Let's take a look back at that game. Now, granted, a 25-minute game, there's not going to be a lot of criticisms you can have for TOP, but what do you want to see from them going forward, considering that if they win this matchup, they're going to be up against IG next?
I think what I would love to see, talking about the composition that they're running, a lot of that one is, as you already saw, was completely different than what we got to see in the regular season. So there are levels of risk to that. And I think the way SinoDragons really acted against that was the right way to play. And if I'm Invictus Gaming, who's the next possible, the possible opponent for winner of either of these teams, they will execute. Like, I'm never concerned with Invictus Gaming's ability to execute when they have the chance to go for it. So I would say that TOP put themselves out to dry. I like the Jace first pick because once again it showed to us that they really want to be able to flex it between top lane and mid lane, and it has the ability to, I'd say, win out just about every lane in the top side of the map. So I think that it means that TOP will always have shove in solo lane. So that's something that I love. And if you're just talking about something I already mentioned, something to learn from is to draft away from those experimentations. And I think it really was, it did feel like an experiment to be able to say, we're going to be drafting so strongly towards the bottom side of the map for us, because when they did that versus the top teams in the LPL, then they failed at that. Put more love towards mid lane in particular.
Well, especially because when you have experimentation like that, generally speaking, it can cause you to be maybe overconfident in your ability to pull that one off. And the last time we saw someone get overconfident against SinoDragon Gaming, it was a 3-0. Granted, this is one game in so far.
And I'm not saying experimentation. I already, I'm just saying to the level, to the degree of saying that I don't think that they would be able to, that they would show this level of play if they go up against Invictus Gaming or FPX or like any of the future opponents that are coming up. So we'll have to see. This is just a good information flow for us to be able to say that, hey, they got this level of resources in the bottom side of the map, and we got to see them actually perform even when all things went awry. Because TOP, even though this game came out pretty easily for them, first 3 minutes, a lot went awry to the early level invade. So it's nice to see a team actually combat that pretty early and try and split up the sides of the map.
Okay, so let's bounce back to SinoDragons,
okay,
right? Because we talked about it a little bit going out of the game. They had bit of sloppy execution, bit of draft problems. What do you think their biggest adjustment specifically should be going into this game number 2?
I mean, I think it really does come to one of the hardest things to change going in from game 1 to game 2 in a best of 3 or a best of 5 in this case is actually level of play, right? Because you can't change if you change the draft, that's the first thing you can do, because that's something that's going to drastically change your composition. And you say, bot lane lost, let's draft something a little bit more better for that lane. But a lot of like level of play and communication, that's something you have to be able to work across the split. And I think that's something that actually failed on their end. Now, people will look at this series and say that, oh, I mean, like, are they bad now, right? No, I actually just think that TOP are one of the top 3 teams in the league right now, next to FPX and Victus Gaming, that I think they are that good. So you have to be able to play perfect or damn well close to it to be able to net the victories. So it ain't an easy answer, and I think SinoDragon is struggling for that one themselves.
Well, especially for SinoDragons, because they do rely on that consistent performance from their solo laners. A lot of times in their earlier season games, we'd look at SinoDragons and we'd say, okay, everywhere's losing except for Changhong. Changhong's just sitting up there. He's holding on for dear life. He's like, dear God, one of you get something done. I am Sion. I can't do a whole lot. Now, granted, they've been able to move away from that as the split has progressed and they've grown as a team. But when they're not able to have that security in the solo lanes and when they're not able to get GALA ahead, they seem to have a lot of problems.
I will say this, though. I think one thing they can change, and I'm not saying, draft better. I actually think the draft was fine if they're trying to play the best to that. So I would never say draft better because your last draft is bad. But in terms of comfort, actually, Xiaopeng being able to find ganks into the top side, one of them worked. But it was actually super hard to find the dive that they usually would have gotten with any top laner. But Vladimir makes that near damn impossible because the level of damage that he has in this first 5 levels, nah, it's not going to happen. Like that dive is not going to work out unless we had Knight. So they had to bring in Twilla for those situations, and they weren't able to. So I think that going into the next game, what I would love to see from SinoDragon's top side of the map, if they're going to play through top side, get some more damage or tankiness. I think their ability to actually save out in a lot of the dives there was actually positive. So I'm looking at that situation, and I think I got some of that mixed up. The Vladimir was on the TOP's end, but still the criticism still comes through where Xiaopeng was able to get the first gank in the top side of the map, and I think that if he goes and returns to that one, it helps because Changhong is the type of player to actually make it rain. He's the type of player, if he actually gets the kills, receives a lot of the tankiness and ability to be able to help his team, then he's going to be the one that teleports to the bottom side of the map.
And I think that's one of the strengths about SinoDragons that they do have going for them in this, because yeah, maybe they're not going to have that opportunity to take away the solo lanes as much. Maybe they're going to have problems with the dives, but they are one of the unique teams in the LPL for another reason, which is we've seen all of these members able to pull out carry performances, even Mark.
True. I mean, if you're literally talking about the support here, so I guess that's fine because of his level of play. So level of play, Mark has had some insane Galio performances, which is why not only because Galio is just an insanely strong support, but because he is that strong of a player, that's why I don't expect it to be picked up. It should just be banned by TOP throughout the series. But hitting on the point of everyone has had a moment where they have carried, I want to focus on Twilla a little bit. Twilla, a member of the team who actually statistically tends to suffer across the board on mid laners, not only because the LPL has such strong pool of mid laners that, it's hard to look good in that situation, but more so he tries to give a lot to his side lane. So he tends, like the Lulu performance, the Zillion performances, he's not going to get the resources. He's supposed to clear the wave until late game comes through. But my point is, remember the RNG series? They won that one. And that one was based off of his Corki game where he was able to, and his Jace game, where he was able to actually output so much pressure in team fights and was a major playmaker for the team, the sole reason why they won that game. So Twilla shows another face. It happens. I want to see if he can do it going up against Knight, because historically when they've faced off against each other in the LSPL, it hasn't looked good for Twilla. It's just been completely in Knight's favor. History's got to change at some point. Maybe it's this game.
Twilla, like you said, amazing carry performances, but they tend to draft around him sort of filling in the void. They are able to shift that up along with their level of play. We're going to see them having success here, but Knight versus Twilla is not a matchup where you can be like, yeah, Twilla will bring this one up.
It just depends on what SinoDragons want. I really do believe that, because if they give him something like a Jace in the matchups, now they haven't had their hand on that one because that just seems to be a first pick priority for TOP. But if they give him a strong enough matchup, I think he can come out well. But the problem is, even in a poor matchup, Knight can come into the series and still be creative enough to find impact across the map. And that's something that I think is insane to be able to see at the level of this player. Remember, you got to see at an interview or prediction coming through, like Doublelift and Jensen say a lot of great things about Knight, because Knight as a player, #1 ranked in solo queue for so long in Korean solo queue. Comes into play when he was Young Miracles, was by far the best player in the LSPL. A lot of people were their naysayers when he came into the LPL, but when he went on Suning earlier on, for me, he was by far leader for Rookie of the Split. And this year, you've already said it coming into the damn series, he seems like he is the best mid laner right now in the league, simply because Rookie hadn't had the same level of consistency throughout the league that we're used to seeing. So it seems like, if we're just talking about top 2 mid laners, certainly Rookie and Knight are just sitting there. And that's insane to be able to say that for a young gun like him.
And I think it adds to the fear of TOP as a team, because 369 is probably one of the best contenders for Rookie of the Split. He's been having some insane top lane carry performances.
That's why I want to see that level of performance from SinoDragons. They upset EDG when no one saw it coming. And when people said, like, hell no, that's not going to happen. Now they get blue side here. So for me, SinoDragons going to immediately look towards picking up they're not even going to go for the Sylas. The entire playoff run, they've actually been banning the Sylas themselves when they're on blue side. But during the regular season, every single time they end up going on blue side, they first pick the champion for Changhong. But it seems like they're not willing to flex it between Changhong and Twilla, so they want to forego that.
Well, they've got something else that they're really good on when they're allowed to get it, and that is the Galio there for Mark. He has had amazing performances on this, over an 80% win rate, and able to make play after play with it.
What I'm not happy here is if you're picking up the Galio and you're banning the Morgana, then TOP can just go straight towards the Lovers duo. I'm surprised they're banning out, or at least they're picking up the Braum, because I think Zion Rakan would actually work out fantastically well. There's always the concern that if you're engaging with Rakan into a Galio, channels up taunt, and he can kind of go that deflated. But in terms of just raw laning phase pressure, TOP would have that. So go for the Braum anyways. We'll have to see if the pressure goes bottom side so they can punish the Galio early. Braum actually does a great job in 3v2, 3v3 situations to be able to punish Galio, because remember, a lot of the way he ends up trading and getting out of situations, very difficult for Galio. Like, his Justice Punch to get out of there actually just leaves him vulnerable if you want to, like, interrupt that. So we'll have to see if that's going to be the focus.
You can be behind him and still hit him. So
yeah.
That one's a little bit scary for Mark there, but something scary for TOP. We got both the Kaisa and the Kindred picked up for SinoDragons. They're coming into this one serious.
That's going to be fun. And remember, this is SinoDragons with the Kindred on first phase, because the best compositions you can ordinarily run with that Kindred, get the Zillion in there. Lulu, perhaps Azir if you want to use that Shurima Shuffle, or just get to shut them out of my ultimate, right? There are a lot of ways to play through Kindred, so I'm loving that they're starting this one out with the Kindred and Galio.
If we're going to trust anyone with that combo, we're going to trust it to Xiaopeng.
Hell yeah.
Because he has been having crazy Kindred games, even in the LDL. But TOP have been able to secure themselves the Vayne in the bottom lane as well, and they've taken away the Cassiopeia there. Both Changhong and Twilla have shown incredible performances on it in the split.
He has been our, like, I'm talking about Xiaopeng here, been flat out our best carry jungler in the LPL. Because if we were thinking carry junglers here, people would immediately dart towards Haro, but he hasn't been playing. And when he has, it has been really spotty performances. And SOFM, while he'll have good games, there are certainly games where you're leaving your head questioning the calls that happen there, and Snake are just not that good at the moment. So right now, Xiaopeng is certainly the most consistent and well-skilled carry jungler, and his Kindred is just fantastic. So we'll have to see what TOP ends up doing to go into it. Certainly the Jarvin is a pretty good option if you need follow-up. You're probably looking towards Knight to get something, not an Echo, because you do want more of a mage presence, not an assassin here.
Banning away the Lulu there as well. We mentioned it combos well with that Kindred, combos well with the Kaisa as well. So it looks like TOP just want to get that one off the board for the time being, and SDG have already removed Rise from the side of TOP.
No Rise. It means that the Zoe is definitely a focus here. So even taking out the Syndra, certainly TOP would have to do something to take away the Zoe option. So there we go. Best way to take it away is literally giving it to Knight.
This scares me, Raz.
Why?
Why do you give away Zoe tonight? He's one of the best mechanical players in the LPL, arguably the best mid laner in the LPL this split, and you're just going to give him Zoe, and he's not going to take it?
So that's what I was thinking. Because remember, going into the whole Zoe situation, there's a reason why SinoDragons are banning out the best matchups into it. I'm talking about the Rise and Syndra. It's because there are still ones that are really good in terms of just outranging the Zoe in the laning phase. And going, like, one of the biggest trading patterns that Zoe ends up meeting is, of course, Sleepy Trouble Bubble into Q. Sometimes you can just go for a raw Q in the lane, but you need to be able to have the wave cleared out before that's even a possibility. So Orianna is a good one because you have the range in the matchup and you can trade through the minion wave. So it makes a lot of sense that TOP would see that and say, no, we're going to strengthen our mid lane no matter what and lock in that Orianna.
SinoDragon's moving away from that Zoe option. They've locked in the Karma there for Twilla. And they're hovering onto and lock in the Swain as well.
Wow. Swain has had actually a large priority globally. Being able to see Swain in the top side and, of course, Zoom's performance on it. He's the strongest Swain at the moment. That's fine if you're going into team fights and you have that carry option. But the Karma is interesting because I certainly would have expected the Zilean here. I think Zilean is just a great option. And Azir is another strong one. While you can get pressured a little bit by the Orianna because of the raw damage she ends up having, just the range option you have there is strong enough. And you can start to protect the Kai'Sa a little bit more. Hell, maybe, I was about to say Cassiopeia, but that one got banned in second phase there. So the Karma, at the very least, can trade into the matchup. And so I'm looking towards Karma saying, okay, she'll end up pushing in the Orianna a little bit, start trading in the matchup, and maybe even giving avenues for Xiaopeng to get into the lane with the snare that she has. And then once the game goes into mid to late game, you have an Ardent Sensor and a Dean's Unholy Grail to be able to buff up your double AD carry.
The supportive mid laner once again going over to Twilla, so they're really falling back to their roots on this one with the pick and ban. But TOP secure the Renekton in the top lane as well. A really strong early laner.
That's just 369's best champion by far. I think when it comes down to what he has showed that he can consistently win the lane with, it's the Renekton. So let's get into it, man. I just love seeing these games.
So far, both teams bringing their A game, bringing what they're best at instead of necessarily focusing around the other team. So SDG, we want to see an elevation in their level and play. We want to see them execute harder and stronger.
And there are two reasons for that. Remember, like, SinoDragons haven't necessarily had the times to show us more strategy. They threw us everything they had when they went up against EDG. And then they come into today, and that's a 2-day turnaround. Like, it's 1 day of practice. You ain't going to be showing anything new unless if you're just saying, hey, you know what? Screw the hell with practice, right? We've seen some teams around the world go for that, so that's not SinoDragons. TOP, though, I think they're trying to hide a few strategies here, picking up what they're most comfortable with, going up against if they end up winning the series, that is. Invictus Gaming, then a possible finals, so this is still a long run for both of these teams.
TOP feel confident that what strategies they already have will be enough to win it against SinoDragons. But SinoDragons going to be bringing their A game, the supportive mid lane for Twilla, the carry jungler for Xiaopeng, and the carry in the top lane for Changhong. Every ingredient is here for a SinoDragon victory, but will they be able to do it against TOP? We're going to find out as we get here into game number 2.
SDG! SDG! SDG!
So the LGD fans are certainly louder than SinoDragons fans. It concerns me a little bit. It makes me sad. I'm just going to put that out there. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. We say this every time. It is in Hangzhou, so it's in the LGD venue. But give SinoDragons some fans, man.
Give them a little bit of credit.
Donate some fans over.
Just let them borrow them for a little bit. They've been doing well enough to be worth it.
Interesting here, actually. Taking a look at Changhong going for the grasp and the Undying in the top lane. So he's just trying to keep up in lane. This is a very hard lane for Swain. So recognizing that, you know, Renekton can just jump in, slice and dice in, get a, you know, good stun across. He's going into Conquerors, which I'm surprised about. I think press the attack is better in the squishier matchups. And I'm not actually expecting any armor to come through on SinoDragon's end. The only real one is, I would say, Zhonya's, but that's not enough for me to justify it. But the healing that he has when he's in split push situations, the 10% added true damage, all of that's still a plus. So I'll give it that once he gets out of laning phase.
Have a good time out of laning phase, but in it he might be missing a little bit of burst that Changhong can use to scale himself up with the Roa. Go towards that tankier build that Swain is so good at. We already saw Zoom perform on that yesterday. But now, taking a look at the junglers, both of them on opposite sides of the map, and it looks like Xiaopeng going to be easily able to secure his first stack of the game.
There we go. I mean, that was my concern, right? Like, having your adjacent lanes be pushing against you, Orianna and the Renekton going to be able to just kind of at least help you out a little bit. Remember, though, right now, the Karma's the one shoving in here. XX might have a way in.
Twilla got to be careful with this one. Has the E now. Gonna be able to walk out, but the flash from XX gets the knockup, forces the flash away from Twilla as well. And Xiaopeng is sitting on the top side of the map towards Changhong's end. He's stealing away the Krugs for now, but might go for a gank.
That's a hard committal to be able to get your Knight a little bit of a lead, right? Because you know that Karma is going to be able to get out of that lane, and you recognize that you have teleport to be able to come right back in. But trying his hardest to be able to have Knight have that HP advantage within laning phase. Corrupting potions just being completely chugged. So Twila will be back in HP, will still lack in mana, and won't have the ability to heal up if there are any more trades happening in the mid lane. But this is going to be our focus here. Top lane wave crashing in.
Changhong is just keeping so much pressure up here with Xiaopeng there as well, and 369 knowing that. There is so much pressure on 369 to do absolutely nothing and let Changhong take the better of this lane.
And it's the extra bit of damage that Gracian dying gives you off these small trades that are really starting to hurt 369, who can't find an ability to all in there. So he'll pick up this wave. I think he's just trying to struggle to find a good time to base. Once he finds a good time to base, then Changhong will do the same. And then it resets the laning phase, and we'll see if Jarvin ends up finding a way up top lane. But for now, seems like bottom lane is going to be our focus.
Yeah, the Scuttle Crab just faded. Both teams are going to be going towards this mark. They know it's on the map for Xiaopeng. And XX isn't actually going to go to defend it despite initially pinging onto it. So Xiaopeng should be able to get his second stack of the game. It's just 4 minutes in, Raz, and he's halfway there.
He knew that that was going to come up. One of the best things about like Kindred mechanics, or just like recognizing once you take down the Scuttle, you know that XX is taking up the Raptors. Really the only thing available that will get marked 100% is going to be the Gromp. So just knowing that Gromp is going to be the next step, and so he had GALA and Mark push up the lane, so he's able to get the second one. So far, a really good early game there from Xiaopeng, and he's going to be able to go back and get a full clear. I wonder if he goes up towards Wolfcamp Gromp himself, or tries to go towards the Krugs and base. Actually, he's going to base right now, so see what he ends up getting.
Scuttle Crab is about to spawn as well, and Twila keeping vision here. I don't know about this aggressive movement into the top side. XX goes for the flag and drag as well onto Twila, but Twila's putting out a lot of damage. XX is on level 3, but this is going to be a double flash from SDG, almost certainly. There's one. Twila still not flashing just yet. The blast plant going to pop. Twila's safe, but Changhong not going to be as lucky just yet. Gets taken down for first blood.
So spoiler alert, Twila had flashed in the earlier game. So we're in a situation where like they were recognizing they were going to get the kill on towards Changhong, and they were just saying, you get as much damage as possible. They can come right round and gank Twila anyways, who's struggling for HP after getting traded upon by Knight, and they would net the kill. They have good timers right now on Twila, so right now there's a lot of pressure from TOP's perspective. Oh my goodness.
I don't know what Xiaopeng's doing here. That is really aggressive without knowledge of where 369 was. He's getting chased down here. It's 3-man from TOP, forces the flash away from Xiaopeng. His early game was clean earlier. This time he's going a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, him going in, he was like, all right, I have flash, maybe I can make the play come through. But this was Twila coming in for a possible gank topside. Look at how far in Renekton was. So if there was no jungler, then yeah, Renekton would fall in this one. But XX recognizes that. Remember, jungle proximity topside, 5th best in the league. So XX is going to be there when he's required. They're just in time to be able to net the kill on Changhong.
There he goes, 369 getting it with the Call the Meek. That said, Changhong does have the CS advantage here in the top lane. Got a little bit of armor to keep himself safe, plus the Corrupting Potion and Biscuit, so he's not going to get poked out at the very least. If he gets engaged on, it's going to be trouble for him.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse. The damage being stacked up, items coming through from 369, and XX starting to finish his clears towards the top side, makes it so Changhong's early advantage that he had with Xiaopeng available is going to wither away.
Xiaopeng now going to secure the red buff for himself. Ticks up to level 5. The Raptor's not going to be an option for him to take, so still going to be slowed down a little bit on those stacks. But both blue buffs are coming up as well at the moment. But Xiaopeng looking towards the bottom side of the map.
At this point in time, on TOP, like you already said that Xiaopeng's coming through and maybe they can get a clear onto that control ward. Shouldn't be able to. Mountain Dragon's going to be a primary focus. It's actually so hard for both Xiaopeng and XX to be able to get reasonable ganks into these lanes. Unless if he finds a way on towards Twilla, but Twilla is about to have flash already. So even then, you're committing towards another flash take, and that's not really a good enough justification to go right back around for mid lane. Try to pick up the dragons. Force your bottom lane to really get the push, and right now, you already said Xiaopeng coming bot side. I think SinoDragons have the best ability to, with GALA being able to just spam out his Qs, to get the shove in bottom side and support that.
Both teams' AD carries will do a lot to help speed up the dragon pick as well, but Xiaopeng definitely has the better clear speed with that Kindred, but instead he's focusing towards the top side. Next Scuttle's going to be crabbing there. There it goes, spawning just now. And the bottom side shove is going over to TOP, so this might be the Mountain Drake attempt from them.
That's fine. Remember, you just wanted to be able to get the necessities out of the way, give Twilla blue buff, get Scuttle grab topside. He will end his run through the bottom lane. It just comes down to whether or not TOP is going to make it count right now. Control ward being placed, they know that XX is going to be on it. I wonder if they just give it away. This is certainly, like, SDG have this knowledge.
They have it, and it looks like XX knows they have it as well, pulling it out, waiting. There's no way they're going to be able to contest this one.
Yeah, both mid lane and jungle had based off that one, so unfortunate base timings. I guess they were just recognizing they can just give it away, wanting to value mid lane shove overall, but then that's also just wasted blue buff with the amount of time that you just kind of pushed mid and got out.
Not going to be the steal there from GALA, but that surprises pretty much nobody. Level 6 on Xiaopeng, but Mountain Drake goes over to TOP. Now they've gotten that advantage in the back pocket, and across the lanes, TOP are doing incredibly well. The only CS deficit they have is in the bottom lane, but they've picked up the Mountain Drake, so they're going to be looking pretty happy with this early game.
And that answers your earlier question, right? Just around the top lane. The fact that all of that pressure on the top side of the map starting to bounce back towards Renekton there. Moment he finally recognizes that Xiaopeng is not going to be there to really be a bane in existence. Looking at Xiaopeng, has a pretty good idea that this is not going to be contested. We'll have to see if Orianna tries to back him off. Yeah, not going to get the chance.
Too fast is the clear from Xiaopeng. Third stack. Not quite at the extra range just yet, but he's about to hit it. And Changhong, like we pointed out, starting to struggle a little bit in the top lane matchup. No longer has the aggressive poke, but
He's going to get a lot of damage here.
Xiaopeng looking for the gank. Going to use the E. Hasn't gotten the slow just yet, but he's kiting off to the side. But XX is here additionally. Mark comes in with the ultimate hero's entrance. They should be able to pick this one up for free. Mark just with the defensive taunt there to stop any escape attempts, and the Rift Herald just spawned.
What a good timing rotation from SinoDragons. It wasn't just Mark that moved up top lane, it was GALA as well. And all of that completely unseen by TOP. So Renekton just went in, recognizing that he's like, maybe I have a chance here, and I certainly have the damage on Xiaopeng. Didn't know that there was that many people up in the top side of the map.
Now TOP might look to contest here. 2,000 health remaining on the Herald. Who's going to be the one to secure it? They need to get this one down. Don't leave it to a smite battle. XX looking for it. Oh my god, XX takes it as Xiaopeng gets taken down. Disastrous for SDG.
Yeah, there was no way for Twilla to come in with any support. And Xiaopeng was just sitting there, unable to really combat them, so loses the Rift Herald as well. That hurts, man. That hurts a lot.
Such good rotation from them, and now they've lost everything from it. Sure, Changhong gets a few turret platings in the bottom lane, but now the Herald's been dropped top, and LoKeN's up here as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of gold right on top of LoKeN there. I think it was unassisted there too, so the fact that he's able to now net it for himself, go back, get a Black Cleaver, a Blade of the Rune King. You're at a pretty good state in just a 1v1 matchup, so take a look at this one. So you already saw Karma coming in from behind them. I'm just going to look towards what really Xiaopeng was focused on, which is just burning down the damn Rift Herald. Ooh, that's actually just so low. I guess he didn't have smite for that one, but really hurts to be able to see that one happen.
Going to go definitely into TOP's favor, but now Xiaopeng, I believe that's his last stack. Yep, there it is. He's got the 4 stacks on his back now. And for SinoDragons, Raz, they're not looking great in this early game. That Rift Herald went disastrously for them, but how do they bring themselves back into it? How do they swing this game back in their favor?
I mean, keep being consistent and hope TOP slip up. Primarily right now, looking to pressure towards bottom lane. This works if XX is not there to hover. He unfortunately is, right? These kind of plays, as long as you can completely challenge them with the control wards that you're levying on your side of the map, you can start to get something off of that one. Taunt from Galio is going to be, that's going to be important. So we'll have to see if it's ever available. One of the major issues of Xiaopeng looking for that one is that he didn't have a good gauge of where the control words were, so he kind of skipped over the one that's right next to Changhong to the left. So it's unfortunate. Here comes an all-in.
369 dodges away from Changhong's E and will engage with his ultimate, but Changhong answers with one of his own. He's going to be full health here, waiting for 369 to maybe re-engage.
Well, that's actually just full soul fragments now gone from Changhong, so he's going to have to do the dirty work to build that right up. If they create a play when ultimate from Swain comes right back up, he doesn't have the damage. So that's a better trade there for Renekton, who's also just trying to find a good time to back.
But if they get this dive off, everything will go back into SDG's way. The Lamb's Respite is still available. 369 goes in, tries to get the kill, not going to be able to find it. And Changhong takes up the turret so everyone can get out. But on the top side of the map, TOP pick up the top lane tower.
So close to being able to trade back. Had the kill con towards 369 while Vayne was picking up the top lane turret. Then TOP just went across the board. But, you know, now that kill gold goes towards Xiaopeng. Xiaopeng sitting pretty happy about that one. We'll have to see if they can be consistent about it.
Oh, here comes Knight roaming once again into the bottom lane. Xiaopeng not going to get knocked up, but flashes away from the shockwave. Good play from him. XX goes down in answer from the red buff. Changhong needs to get himself out of here before Knight takes him out. Knight, no ultimate, getting low on mana. Changhong gets the grasp, needs one more, and he finds it, Raz. Knight picking up the kill, but Twilla's here to answer. He's going to be looking for the mid laner of TOP, but with the teleport coming in, he's going to have to back off.
Great timing on the TP. Renekton just comes right back on time. I loved that from Orianna. Just being able to chase down Swain. I didn't think he would get the damage across. Bone plating activating there, but really maximizes the Q damage and weaving in auto attack. So good job from Knight. Roaming once again. Game 2. The man cannot sit in the mid lane. It's not going to happen.
Now Knight 2-0-1. Twilla's not having much luck answering it.
Oh, let's go.
My God. Okay, Mark stole away the Scuttle Crab. That's impressive.
They don't call it Winds of War for nothing, my friend.
That is worth killing over, Raz.
Upgraded to Winds of Warlord.
You're just running me a Warlord's Bloodlust, and I never want to... That's rough. TOP now has the better positioning towards this bottom side of the map. Twilla gets a lot of damage down, surprisingly, from this Karma.
Yeah, you don't get to see Hextech GLP a lot, especially on towards a Karma as well. I think that's a bit much. Would have rather seen the Luden's Echo. Having the damage is nice, because for me, that damage was actually just not that impressive for me. XX is going to be able to commit right back to the fight.
2,000 remaining on the Mountain Drake. SDG need to secure this one. They will get it. Mark with a beautiful taunt. Ben forced away, but not dead just yet. Changhong has the ultimate ticking, as does Xiaopeng. Lands for Spike, keeping everyone alive for the time being, but Xiaopeng picks one up on the back. Changhong isn't able to find anyone with the ultimate. 3 kills so far for TOP, and they're just going to wipe the fight. 3 for 1.
It's always hard to tell who ends up coming up on top once Kindred ultimate comes through. But that was just really hard from GALA to even support. It really was just coming down to LoKeN, finding real good, place pressure. Just take a look at where he starts out this fight, because coming down right towards it, the fact that SinoDragon even fully committed for this one, you knew that they thought they would get the insta-kill the moment the taunt comes down. But even Ben, the primary target, is able to flash out, get his ultimate down, and then you start looking towards LoKeN, who's like, all right, I'm doing okay here, man. I actually am completely uncontested. And usually when you see that, LoKeN, who's been getting 100% of the resources on the top side of the map, turret plating going directly in towards him, you need to find someone on top of him, and SinoDragons were not in position.
Despite that fight, though, Raz, I'm not looking at LoKeN. I'm looking at Knight. 4-0-2, got the Luden's Echo, a fully stacked Dark Seal. We know he is one of the best mid laners in the LPL, and boy, howdy, is he proving it this game.
Yeah, and take a look at the purchase that he has, Oblivion Orb, the amount of magic penetration that he has now, flat magic penetration, when he already is this far ahead, he is going to be hurting the carries of SinoDragon. So if we're just looking past the Twilla pickup. Okay,
There's the flag and drag onto Changhong. Goodbye to the Birdman. Bye-bye, birdie. Kill for XX.
There we go, man. It's the second time you see him going through and just getting picked off of Fog of War. So we'll see if SinoDragon get any trade in the top lane.
They should be able to get this top lane tower at the very least, so it's something for them, but they're down 3k gold.
And the pings coming from TOP, they recognize that this is a full committal from SinoDragon. They're saying, okay, both mid and bottom lane. This is far better for TOP.
Yeah, I don't think you want to try and make this tower trade, SDG. You might be able to get the enter, but TOP will get pressure onto your inhib because only Twilla is here to defend. SDG will pick up the inner tower. Yeah, TOP just still going.
All right, they recognize that Galio is there and they're going to back off, but not before they end up taking bottom lane turret. So just in terms of raw gold, TOP has that. It's insane to be able to look at the 17-minute mark and say the 4k gold lead is there for TOP, and all of it's just kind of concentrated towards Vayne and Orianna, literally two of the champions that you don't want it on if you're SinoDragons.
Oh no, this is one hell of a pick here onto Mark. Twilla had to run away. Mark dies for it, LoKeN picking that one up, and TOP just looking to run it through a second game in a row, 17 minutes, and they're already pressuring the inhibitor tower.
They haven't seen Kindred in some time. Like, the fact that the pickup on Galio happened at the stage where Xiaopeng was greedily enough looking for a steal on red buff, they get everything they've ever wanted now. We'll have to see if SinoDragons can actually pick something up here.
17-minute inhibitor. That's looking really bad for SinoDragons because they find nothing off the back of that fight, Raz. So now TOP sitting on a 4k gold lead, 18 minutes, Baron spawning in a minute 40, as is the Ocean Drake.
And realistically, the trade for SinoDragons was, you know, losing both mid lane and bottom lane inner towers for the two top lane towers. They looked at that and said that, hey, SinoDragons, we're going to be looking for a Baron buff when it comes up in 2 minutes. The extra top lane tower is going to do more for us. But they didn't get to see the chance, you know, you already talked about it. Mark coming in, getting caught out, while at the same time Xiaopeng was just trying to see if he can get a sneaky little red buff on the side. And they lose out so much more because of that.
Surprising too, because SinoDragons, we've been praising them recently for a good early game. This game they didn't really have that, but they haven't had much else either. They've had a few good successful ganks. I mean, most of the deaths are onto the top laner and the jungle, but they haven't really gotten a significant lead at any point in this game.
Yeah, I mean, as per usual, SinoDragons get that lead on towards Xiaopeng. Xiaopeng in Game 2 and in Game 1 has been a standout performer. The issue is here, how are they going to push that towards their side lane? And Changhong, the vision control he had early on, or at least didn't have, definitely lost his life for that, and hasn't been able to really do much in the side lane, and has been kind of just getting bullied out by XX just outright. So it's unfortunate to see a lot of that. You can just say is communication between him and Xiaopeng to see when he's pathing towards him, when he can walk up, but in just what's been happening. Xiaopeng's not been there, and he's been walking up regardless. So you just got to play with the pressure that you have, and Changhong hasn't.
Changhong, of course, will have the half-stacked Roa, if nothing else, but 369 has just been split pushing away this entire game. It's hard to shut him down at this point. Don't have the damage for it, don't have the defenses for it, and you don't seem to have the team play for it as well, because every time anyone's tried to capitalize on TOP this game, the entire team has been there to stop it from happening, and now Knight sitting happily at 2 items as well. The Morellonomicon finished. The Ocean Drake goes down. Everything is going TOP's way.
There's not much you can do if you're SinoDragons. One of the worst things, one of the worst feels of a Kindred player is when you know that there's a mage bursting champion in the enemy team, and she is far ahead. And that's the case right now. This is going to be a cheeky trade unless if Sino, there's nothing you can really do there. That's a resolve tree primary there from Changhong. So even if you fully commit to that one, that's going to take a while before you get the kill. Yeah, Orianna can just blow up Kindred. That's basically what I'm saying here. It's going to be harder for him to take down Twilla. He's a little bit chunkier, but it's going to be GALA and Xiaopeng staying at a while away. You already saw how quickly they took down Mark II, so it's a lot of raw damage coming in from TOP.
It's scary for the double AD carry composition that doesn't really have a real tank. When you just have an AoE burst mage so massively far ahead, you can't take the team fights that you're known for. You can't take the team fights that your team kind of works around. And you're just stuck in a really rough position.
Yeah, there's one selling point right now from SinoDragons, the fact that they got the Ardent sensor. So incredibly gold efficient. Once again, like Twilla has been useless before that point. Hextech GLP will not be beneficial when you're behind in pace. But if they don't see this one happening, there's not much chance to use it. Oh no.
This is the slowest Baron sneak of all time, Raz.
But they have people in lane pressuring. They're lane pressured out, so they have no idea that this is going to happen. They should have a good idea now, but it's too late.
Yeah, they have a good idea as the Baron goes down, 2,000 HP as the TOP bot laners left the middle lane, and now Baron buff onto all 5 for the next 3 minutes. TOP might be looking to beat their previous time with this one.
It's just hard, man. The moment you see 2 members rotating towards the Baron pit, that Baron was already sitting at like 4k HP and was already getting burnt down. So the moment rotation happens, you see the blue trinket come down, it's like there's no way we react to this guy. So great call from TOP. This is already game 2, and 2 times in a row they play around Baron perfectly. So seems like no nerves at all in this series.
It's interesting too because SDG, if they get a really good early game into the mid game, tend to do really well. With the first Baron, they have a 100% win rate over 18 games. But when TOP are denying away the Baron and have basically taken a 5k gold lead and all the objectives off the map by 20 minutes, that first Baron isn't happening.
It's a hard life, man.
It's
hard
rough.
life. It's tough. It's tough. SinoDragon is usually the team that tries to come back from behind anyways. But it seems like they can't even show that, man. I've been watching, rewatching, I suppose. Like some of that Hajime no Ippo, like, you know, the whole comeback stories. You want to be able to hype yourself up, then watch some of that stuff. But this one's certainly not going to be that.
Yeah.
This is the one where Ivan Dragic ends up killing you. It's like, no, no. They did it to Apollo. We don't want to see it happen to Balboa.
It's definitely looking rough here for SinoDragons, and maybe this is time for them to start thinking about the next game. I hate to say it, Raz, but it's 23 in. The Baron buff still on all 5 members of TOP, and they're shoving it down the mid lane that has an open inhibitor. This could just be the last push of the game.
They're in bad positioning. They're going for it.
That's the flash stun, but it's not going to find much else. Mark looking for the taunt, lands it onto 2 of the carries, but the flashes away from TOP are going to keep them safe, and now Mark under threat as he goes golden. Xiaopeng's ultimately going to save him for the time being, but TOP, they dive in. The shockwave does so much damage from Knight, and SinoDragons can't do anything to stop the onslaught of Topsports Gaming as they take down the inhibitor. They take down all members of SinoDragons except for Twilla, and 1 versus 5. How's he going to defend this one, Raz? I don't think he's going to be able to.
Get him.
They're diving on the triple kill for LoKeN. That's 1 Nexus Tower. Let's see the 2, and let's see the game number 3 as TOP take the series so far to a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, and the Magi stack end at 20. That was a clean performance in terms of just raw team fighting. They got the pressure around the Baron buff. This just feels like clean 101 League of Legends, and it really is demoralizing. You take a look at their faces, Xiaopeng must be frustrated because 2 games in a row, he could look at himself and say, I thought I played that one well. Individually speaking, I got all the resources that I wanted. I was ahead of XX, and I was pincering through, but like, it just feels like every single time he goes for another play, extra gold is going across towards LoKeN. LoKeN is far more valuable than, you know, all the resources Xiaopeng was able to get for himself. So it's tough if you just take a look across the board. LoKeN gets the gold and Knight gets the plays. So I don't know how game 3 is going to be going, but SinoDragon need to take this 7 minutes to really discuss it.
I'm real nervous about my predictions at this point, Raz. I'm going to be honest.
Should have been days ago.
I know. But at the same time, I got the Jingdong one right, so I was going with my heart, but this is not a good game for Xiaopeng's heart because we saw him maybe show a little bit of a sign of tilt at the end of that game number 2 because he was going for that red buff steal while TOP were just shoving it down the mid lane, 17 minutes in.
I think people will look at that play and be a little bit too, like, that is not the reason why they lost, essentially. When he was going for that red buff, there's a good way to say, like, he takes it, he goes back to base, TOP base, and guess what? Like, he has a red buff for them. He actually stalls them a little bit in the opposite side of the map. But it was the idea that he got red buff, and then his Galio goes out and gets caught out, right? Because he thinks that the coast is clear. But that was simply not the case. So I think if we're talking about what SinoDragons need to do, there just simply needs to be a far more aggressive way to take it out in the early game. Because if we're just talking about how outclassed they are across the board and how the early game has actually been working so well for Knight and a little bit more so for LoKeN, and they've just been cleaner in how they've been rotating for these dives and, you know, turret pickups. Right now, SinoDragons needs to find a way to put a wrench to it. That's how far ahead it seems like TOP are, and they don't seem challenged. So it's tough. I ain't saying it's gonna be easy, but we need to do something.
Because I don't like what SinoDragons have been doing at this point. I don't like what they've been putting Twilla on, because we talked about it coming into game number 2 in the pick ban. We were like, Twilla, we know you can play Corki, we know you can play carries, but they haven't put him on this, and it seems like they're playing the mid lane not to win, but to not lose.
No. Like, okay. I know this is the same discussion that they're having as well, or at least like people or the fans are coming through. But like, no, that is a winning strategy. Like, if you're picking Karma and you're being able to shove out Knight, he's getting pushed underneath this tower. You are actually putting him behind in the first 2 to 3 minutes of the game. So that's a positive strategy, and it's allowing Xiaopeng to move forward. The major issue is the strategy past that point. Because if not really, like, if you're not going for a dive early on in the bottom lane, if you're not pressuring out, like, for instance, they've been actually trying to look for it in game 1 in the top side of the map, but then 369 is respectful. Like, really, they're not losing that much. And so when it comes down to it, and you're like, well, you're out of dematerializers, or we just had a Jarvin gank in the mid lane, and so you've lost flash and you lost a lot of HP. You can't do anything about that. So I think, actually, they've been putting Twilla in really good situations within the laning phase, and then he's in either losing flash off of ganks, or, I mean, time's up, and Jace actually just ends up getting his first item. So I think, overall, Knight is doing a fantastic job alongside XX to make Twilla a little bit sad.
Well, you say time's up, but first item, that's no time at all for a Jace. That's what, 2,800 gold or something?
I'm just talking about, like, first, you know, I'd say 2 longswords is good enough. But taking a look at this, this is one of the plays that, you know, bottom side of the map, you got to see. Knight just rotates bot side. And this is something you actually want to see him lock down a little bit more frequently. And this is where my criticisms actually come towards Twilla. Because in this case, Twilla was actually a little bit behind off the earlier gank, and then the skirmish in the top side of the map. So he was actually trying to fiend for more experience within the lane, and in the one time he actually gets a shove in the laning phase matchup, skirmish happens in the bottom side of the map. Orianna is first onto the scene, and so that's actually the second time, 2 games in a row, where Knight in matchups where he gets pushed in on is able to actually come out of the lane and actually rotate first. So I think that's the first thing that I would say for Twilla, is not so much the champion picks. His champion picks have been fantastic. I think the draft has worked well for their strength. It's more so like being out of the scene, being there to be able to upset a lot of the numbers game that TOP's been getting.
All right, well, Twilla got to up his tempo in game number 3, or TOP are going to be looking for that quick 3-0 with blazing speed. We're going to find out which it is as we get into the potentially last game of the series in just a few minutes.
看到了，但卡莎一个人没有闪现。
后面有人在蹲的，一个 QQ 到小兵，
人有点多，但是
后面有个 TP 直接海南，海南这里有大招闪现，这个位置看一下2连，大招打得非常好，直接秒掉了小兵。看这个位置又在拉了一个漫天飞雨，一个倒钩的还不错，摇个指条看一下能不能走。这个位置一踢到了U3，
终结的人
收了下来，
姿态这边没有闪现的，被一个惩戒减速了大招走，但是被 Q 只能跟到了。
这个艾卡西亚暴雨硬碰收下几个人头。这边后面有个 TP，2G 的 TP， 这个位置看一下，直接定大招下来，
金身配合一个小明的大招下来，
完了，
这个位置血量很低啊，
人马冲进来了，看一下后面，哇，直接冰雨进场把硬碰解决掉了，后续绿毛也没有办法独活，
小狗这个位置开启了疯狂输出模式，闪现过去收掉这个，
还有一个追波压起身，
追
波要收辛德拉，有一点点走远，但是已经起身了，
要
Braum 没有办法。
还好没有被白白打一套。
这里盲僧看一下动作怎么样？这个位置踢出，
哇！海南这场天崩地裂，直接大到4人，但是这边还是在
好打。这里是被减治疗了，我们这里看起来开了一个金身，能不能走？交了一个金身往后拉，后面这里在的位置有点危险，
这一爆。
哇，这里过来的话，
刘丹还在继续输出，已经杀到了冰女，但是回身继续打，有一点点风险，能换吗？一会儿一个金身立住了之后有点难，大招扑过去收掉了刘丹的人头。
对，这 这一步的话，他们知道UEI没有闪现
但是
的，
又在
这个兵很关键啊！
而且
先 Q 技能减速一下 B2UEI 的一个治疗。
这里直接
闪现 WQ
锤3个。
这里
反正
绿毛有一点危险，
要反打。 导致一个被动，有人 TP 下来了，
九孔站了一下，但是最后一波一发平 A 直接收掉了。
撞这个没有撞到墙，有点危险。
有队友帮忙挡
绕后了，
这个位置看到边线网，而且第一时间 U 仔不在，
逼出了姿态的一个闪现，然后后续一个大招救了一下自己的 AD。
等一下 ，U 仔过来了，这边是不是想继续？
又被睡到了。
这边看一下打一炮，这个位置 U 仔被打醒，
瞬间
是一个中间人头
拿到这个人头，而且绿毛还在追这个小虎，小虎已经没有了。
要踩爆的火
这边小虎好点不特别好走，在原地想回城，但是这里 Flawless 已经过来 ，UQ 没有打到，这边需要封一下。 这里直接拍一下地板，人头让给天使，
天使加速上来，
是打出了一个0换5。